vertical wall. You can also reset it too. All the instructions are there. You can see when you pull up the ability, all the instructions are there. But the Sage Wall is such a great piece of utility, and it lasts a long time. And in pistol rounds, that thing basically blocks off an entire route, and then a team's going to have to reevaluate their push.
Yeah.
And On-Screen and the rest of the boys, they're going to pick up the first round there relatively comfortably. It didn't seem like there was too much difficulty for them. And if you get a nice clean first round and you can then buy up, and then realistically you should be winning the second round. I know a lot of people are asking about economy. Second round is usually where people should be saving and not buying, because you're going to be going up against a team that's just won and they're going to be buying up a load of weapons. But you will see a few people just forcing up and buying those SMGs, for example. The Spectre can do a real amount of damage in the right hands.
You know, the Spectre, it's a great gun for sure, because if you get up close, you can shred through somebody. But I love the alternative fire for it. It's a 3-round burst, more controlled, and if you can catch them off guard, because let's say in the instance of this second round, right, this enemy team will more than likely not be able to buy the adequate armor, or maybe some of them won't be able to buy the armor that they need. You can really take advantage of that with a 3-round burst and shooting right to the head. But GDolphn was able to pick up a few there. That was very well done by him. As we now jump over to the other side here to see what's going on. I think this is going to be the Sova, so this will be Lothar. I could be wrong though, but I have to double check. Either way though, it doesn't matter. They ended up picking the round win. That came off the back of GDolphn's great play there by the box on short.
It is also worth noting that whilst for Twitch Rivals, we're of course watching everything on everyone's streams, there is an observer mode in game already. So I'm very excited to see how that is going to work when we jump into the possibility of having esports and competitive tournaments for this.
Oh, really? There is?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain there is already an observer mode that is there and ready and waiting. So I'm very excited to see how that works.
I had been wanting to. I wanted to like spectate some in-houses, but I just never really got an opportunity to do it. So I was like not sure if it was even in there to begin with. But even then, that's still exciting. And I think it just goes to show you, right? Like just the dedication that's being put toward this to make this into a very competitive game, to make this into even an esport. Riot Games, very well known, obviously, for League of Legends and what they've done there. Now embarking in this new world of the tactical first-person shooter.
There's a lot of thought.
It's one of those things where there's clearly two things you really need for a game to be an esport, and that's you need a way to put players into one match, private lobby system, and then you need a way to spectate that system. You got those two things, the community will do all the rest for you. I can't wait to see what communities do when they get a hold of this game.
Oh yeah, for sure. What were you gonna say, Dan?
I was just gonna say you can see there's a lot of thought going into each round from these teams now. Like I imagine that some of these games that were recorded were getting a little bit further into their playtesting from the Friday, I think is when they played it. So this will still be their first day. But people are starting to experiment a little bit more now with abilities and the placement of certain traps. So Cypher here trying to utilize his trap wires, and you saw in the previous round his cyber cage. When someone walks through that cyber cage, which is what he just threw there, they will light up and you'll be able to see where they are. So you can really take an advantageous position and ensure you get the right spray down on them.
I had an opportunity to play with some players who actually play the game a little earlier as well. And I was seeing how they were playing around with Cypher. While throwing down this tripwire here, it's very useful because it will give you information. The player is not going to be able to push through there without shooting the tripwire down. So that will reveal the position already. But the other thing too is on the rotation as well. If let's say you pick off someone here by hookah, for example, but you know that they're going to be over by the other side and you might get pushed, you can put the tripwire down and stop them from running and chasing you down to begin with. Again, those small, intricate details that a lot of these agents are able to bring to the table. And if you're just rushing, like if you're going chasing after the fight, or maybe you're going for the rotation from one side to another, you may not pay attention to that tripwire that's there. And then you're going to have to shoot it. It reveals your position. And just a whole mess of things can go wrong if you're not paying attention to the ground and where that tripwire is placed.
Golden Boy, we've seen a lot of people playing with ARs, with SMGs, and a few snipers as well. I haven't seen much love for the machine gun classes or the shotgun classes. Are these weapons underpowered, or have people just not figured out how to use them properly yet?
I mean, the weapons all have a varying degree of strength, and you know, I think it's really, I've found that every gun in this game and everything in this game, as a matter of fact, has a purpose. It may seem, oh man, he gets the shot right through the blaze. I like that. Every weapon and every ability in this game has purpose. From what I've gathered, even the LMGs, because in a game like Counter-Strike, the LMGs are, you know, a little bit more of a novelty, rather than it being something you can actually take advantage of. You may see some people use it, excuse me, but you know, I don't think you're necessarily going to get much value out of it. And maybe it's going to be the same thing here in Valorant. But the LMGs have the highest wall banging potential. Like, it's so powerful through surfaces that maybe you can use it to spam through something if you know that a person likes to play through a particular area, or, you know, you can get a little cheeky with it and build a strategy around it. Also, shotguns too. They oftentimes, right, you'd see players use it so you get the money bonus in CS. Here, if you're a Viper, look, that video that they put out there on the Valorant Twitter channel, or Valorant Twitter, with the Viper play into the smoke, that wasn't just a video, okay? That's real life. You can actually do that. It works. It works. You go through your green smoke with your shotgun out, and you will body some people.
To pinpoint precision, pretty much. This was a read.
Now we got GDolphn over here just waiting, playing this angle, and that's the other little bit about Cypher's cage, is he deploys it, but he has to activate it. So, he's going to find a few players there. Noizeeh's going to get the pick. That's going to be the slow orb that actually drops him back. And then OnScreen coming around the corner, getting two of his own. Just very well done. They were so preoccupied there by the Cypher cages, the cyber cage, that they were just trapped on short, and then they just got obliterated on the flank.
Yeah, I just love that we're already seeing these players utilizing their abilities in different ways. And like you said, some of the abilities you have to activate yourself, some will just automatically activate as well. Cypher is one of those characters where you really have to put things in precise positions, because otherwise you can get caught out. If you think you're covered from certain angles, but then suddenly that screen is going to make you feel a bit vulnerable from certain angles as well, then you're going to have a hard time. But you can already see from the start there, the wall being used here, the barrier orb of Sage, just to get that little bit of height. Again, just patience, angles, timing is everything in tactical shooters.
So that was, if I'm correct, the breach aftershock ability, and it's basically something that goes through a wall and it will do damage. It will also dizzy you, or it may have been the fault line. To be fair though, breach was probably the one agent that I played the least out of everyone else, mostly because the breach got locked fair. It was like, in my games, breach got locked early, and Phoenix or Jet, either one of those. There was like near insta lock. I don't know about you, Gaskin, but it felt like everyone was like just trying to go for people that just did damage and caused problems, you know.
And a lot of those characters, I don't want to say like easier to play, but maybe like at a base level, if you're using the likes of Jet or Phoenix, it's kind of a run and gun. You've got a few abilities that will help you move quickly, or you'll help you flash out. So you can get your main damage dealers, or your people who like to just get in the face of their opponents. Whereas some of the other characters like Brimstone, for example, like Breach, are a little bit more tactical. At first, they weren't being chosen as much, but then when people started to realize how good some of these abilities were, they started to get insta-locked a little bit quicker than they were in previous games. Oh,
good push there from OnScreen. So something to note, you saw the Viper wall go up. So the Viper wall that she's able to deploy works very much, and that's the toxic screen. It works very much like Phoenix's Blaze ability. The difference is that Viper has a tank of gas that she is able, and it sounds pretty funny. I have a tank of gas on me at all times, by the way. But she has a tank of gas that will actually deplete when her abilities are out. And she can also pick up her abilities as well. So you can also throw the Viper wall over buildings and get it completely across to the other side. That alone, oh no! Oof, man, that actually looked pretty bad. That was the Brimstone ult. So again, the utility that you get out of something like that is something just got to respect, because there's just a lot you can take advantage of if you're smart with it.
You did see how he survived the orbital strike there from Brimstone as well. Like, a lot of these ultimate abilities, whilst they're very powerful, you do get a clear indication of when they're arriving, and you do have a small amount of time to get out of the way of them, or even if you're just tagged a little bit. Most of the time when I've seen orbital strike really deal damage is when someone's planting the spike, because you're just so vulnerable. Like, you either have to stop planting the spike or you hold it and you're just going to die. And here's Viper's ult as well. Viper's ult is what you were talking about, Alex, and it can just allow that guaranteed plan. I've seen Viper win rounds just because of that ultimate ability.
Yeah, it's called Viper's Pit, and it is massive. And also, I want to give a shout out to whatever Riot developer came up with that name, because Viper's Pit, very close to Piper's Pit, the legendary Roddy Piper. Just saying, I'm a pro wrestling fan. At least once a broadcast, I got to mention professional wrestling. Sorry, people. But yeah, so the Viper's Pit is that ultimate ability. And as previously noted, you can legitimately pop your ult on site, give you full protection, go in there with a shotgun, and literally reenact the trailer. Like, you just do the exact same thing. Oh, man, and what a shot there from moman, because OnScreen thought that he had the jump on him, but moman was able to counter that one. Very well done. Knew that potentially players, you've seen a lot of players put that ice wall down there on hookah vertically and then try and get up onto the high ground. That was a good read there, without a doubt.
He tried to do it a few rounds in a row, so it just became a little bit predictable. And I think that's something that everyone needs to take note of when you are playing this, or when you get the chance to play this game, is you've got to be unpredictable where possible. If your opponent has a read on you and they know, all right, well, this is the angle he's going to be holding every round, or he's going to teleport this way, or he's going to smoke off this, suddenly they're going to have that information and they will use that information against you. So you've always got to keep your opponent on their toes and try and come up with something a little bit different. Or you can go for the whole double bluff technique. You can maybe do it a couple of times in a row, and then your opponent will think, oh, surely they're not going to do this again. And then suddenly you do it again. So there's all these mind games that are on offer, and you might have these individual battles if you're holding certain areas of the map. So if you say to your team, all right, I'm going to hold A throughout the entirety of this half, you will then know that you're going up against Lothar, for example, who always pushes down long. If suddenly that changes, you need to be communicating that with your team and saying, okay, well, Lothar isn't on A long here, so now we need to be thinking about B. Are they pushing B? Where is he? So much in-depth possibilities to this game, and like how important communication is.
Yeah, to kind of further that one and give you some anecdotal, like an anecdote of what I experienced when I was playing on the other map, which is called Haven, which hopefully we're going to see a Haven game here in a little bit. There are 3 bomb sites, right? A, B, and C.
I said this before.
And I was always playing on the C bomb site, which had a long angle to it. It also had an orb there. And the C site was just, for me, I had my Sage wall. I was able to block it off. I probably should have played Sage in the mid, but I had opted, to do that. When I started to go on attack, though, the enemy Sage did literally the same thing. And then we started to notice that Sage was leaving herself alone. So we waited for that wall to go down, and then we just plowed through it with all of our weapons, completely obliterated the Sage because we saw that the habit was being developed. And then from there, we were able to get that spike down, and we were able to win at least 2 rounds because we did it again. They weren't expecting it. So it's you have to be unpredictable, but also you have to know when it's the best time for you to take advantage of your ability. Like, what should I do here? How should I play this one out? Kind of like what we're seeing right here with the Omen. I didn't even play a lot of Omen, to be fair, Gaskin. And just what Omen's capable of doing is insane, man.
Yeah, this is his ultimate here. So he's literally just teleported across the entire map because he's got that information that there are people at that site instead. Even though it's not that powerful of an ultimate if you use it incorrectly, if you get the timing absolutely spot on, you can wipe out a whole other team. Yes, okay, they'll have the information, and yes, okay, he just teleported there, and it was actually pretty pointless because they had already rotated. It's still a good idea, and at least he was being proactive with the ultimate rather than trying to do it too late on, as it's a 3 versus 2 scenario at this point, and he does have a decent angle here, but they just need to push. Someone needs to get this spike defused.
Yeah, they have to make a play happen. They have to identify where they're going to be. It's going to have a Viper as well as a Phoenix available. So 2 characters that can really get in your face and cause some problems. Lothar is able to get the first pick off there. Someone should be working on that defusal any moment now. Blaze is played. The push comes in from Forsen. He's trying to play the angle, and he's able to land the shot. and that will be the defusal, and they will pick up the round win. That's number 6 for them. That was, again, just well done. You called it. They needed to make a play. They had to make that push happen, and they were able to do it.
And I think I can talk about Omen a little bit because I played a lot of Omen, particularly in the alpha. That was kind of my main character. And
wow,
you have to really know what you can do against certain other characters. So I'd say Omen is quite a good counteraction to Sage because you can teleport on top of that wall, you can teleport to the side of it, you can smoke it, and then you can find yourself around it. Because a lot of Sages do feel comfortable on site when they have walled up. They think, oh, well, someone's got to shoot through this, so I'll know they're there. But both Jet and Omen, they have the ability to get over that wall, and then they can take advantage of maybe just a Sage who isn't really wary of what's going on. Omen is brilliant, but as I said, you really have to be very thoughtful of how you're going to use the abilities, because if you just use his ultimate willy-nilly, you are going to get caught out, everyone's going to know you're behind you, you'll have a whole team hunting you, and you're just going to die. But if you communicate that with your team and say, hey, look, I'm going to use my ultimate, I'm going to get entirely behind them, they're all going to turn around and look for me, that's when you push, that's when you utilize smokes from other agents, and you can really get onto a site and just almost use Omen as a distraction. You might not get the kills, you might die, but the distraction could be enough to get you onto a site.
It's the other thing too is how you saw right there. You saw what Noizeeh just did. He put down his Molotov, pushed through it. The brimstone was waiting for him. He recognized how to utilize his kit properly and then was able to get the jump on somebody while he ended up getting picked off himself. Still, he used that ability in a manner that was able to get him an orb, get him closer to his ultimate, and give him just a little bit of information for his team. Even if they don't get the win here, that kind of a play can be the difference between winning or losing. Now, also, teammates going to go right on through the teleporter, and they heard him. They heard the teleporter, and moman was waiting for Lothar as soon as he walked out of that, and he was just gone.
6-3. He finds himself in a 1v3 situation now. And it was always going to be difficult when you just have an op, but if you can hit your shots, you can certainly make them count. You've got to be watching every single angle. They've got the information of where he is now, but at least as an Omen, he can use these shadow balls to just block off a few areas. The likelihood is he's probably going to try and back off and save here. It's good that he's acknowledged the scenario and saying, look, it's very unlikely I'm going to get onto site and I'm going to win this 1v3. I'll allow them. I'll keep this weapon. I don't have to spend money then in the next round.
Yeah. Also, I want to touch on something that you had said earlier about the ultimates and knowing how to use it, when to use it, and just the proper use cases. This is not the type of game that you hit Q and you win. It's just not that type of game. I'm not saying other games are like that as well, but you know, you still have to be able to execute. But it's not entirely built around the ultimate ability. Sure, can the ultimate benefit you in the round? Without a doubt. You got a Sage ult. Guess what? Resurrection. You're boom. Boom. You're back in the game. GDolphn, it has. He's playing Cypher. He's able to hack. You're getting the info. You're able to push onto a site. And thus, that could theoretically lead to you getting the win. But you still need to be able to shoot your gun. That is, cannot emphasize that enough. You still have to be able to aim and click on some heads in order for you to get the win. It's the ultimate's not just going to do it for you. Yes, there are cases where the Brimstone ultimate or the Sova ultimate can win you around, but those use cases are, in my experience, so few and far between that it's just the chances of it happening frequently is just slim to none, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you also have to make sure you're getting those ultimate abilities as well. You have to be picking up the kills, and you have to be picking up those orbs that are in certain areas of the map so you can charge that ultimate and know when to use them at the right time. Yes, I have seen rounds won because of an ultimate ability, especially in maybe a 1v1 environment. But that's because that person has chosen to save their ultimate for that 1v1, and they haven't used it just stupidly in a previous round. Viper's ult did come out there when she walked onto the site. The interesting thing about Viper's ultimate is the fact that it stays up as long as she is inside that kind of cloud of poison. If she walks out, then it has the ability, it will just go back down. But if you're sat on a site and you're like, oh, we'll just wait for this ultimate to disappear, it's not going to happen if she's in there. If you kill her, it will disappear as well, so that's just something to bear in mind.
You won't have to
Now-
worry about the green gas.
Now
We saw we're over here on we're on this team that has been on offense for this first half, but we saw the defensive half get out to a strong lead. Is Bind a map that you guys in your experience particularly noticed being more defense heavy?
because of the fact that it only has 2 sites, because there are less entry points, you can set up a little bit more comfortably. Whereas the 3-point map, Haven, you are going to see attackers have more chance of spreading out a little bit and trying to find early picks. Whereas the defensive side on Haven can push out a lot more and they can try and find picks of their own. So you'll see defenders being a little bit more aggressive on Haven. Whereas on Bind, I would say it's more about kind of holding those angles, watching the 2 areas or 2 or 3 areas where people can actually push you from. And if you've got a man watching every single angle or an agent watching every single angle, then you should be in a comfortable spot. You just need to communicate with your team. But of course, a well-coordinated push with a decent amount of abilities is going to find your way into a site as well.
Yeah, that's very true. And also too, Bind has that great element to it where there is no mid, right? So the 2 maps that we've played so far have had that, little tiny detail. In the case of Haven, a pretty big one, but the detail that changes it and mixes up the play style of a lot of the players and how they're going to try and push. Also, what agents you use is actually going to be a big deal, because maybe some agents could perform better as we continue to play and learn on other maps. Right. I personally believe that agents like Brimstone and Sage are probably the most useful agents across both maps that I've played right now. But you can also substitute out the Phoenix if you want to play the Phoenix on Haven for a Jet, because Jet is able to jump up on high ground, and there is a notable high ground on the A site. For Haven, maybe you can do that, take over the heaven for them. Again, you can do whatever it is that you need to be able to accomplish. You can play whatever agent you want to be able to play, and whoever you think will get you the win. But I do believe that some agents just simply perform better on maps than others.
Yeah, and certainly in the alpha, anyway, when you're searching in matchmaking, you won't know what map you're actually going to play until you get into the game. So you do have to be thoughtful of that and say, all right, what agent should I be using that would be good on both maps? Because if you kind of put all your eggs in one basket and say, I want to use this agent because of this map, and then you don't get that map, you might be disappointed. Of course, that will be entirely different when you get into custom games, and we don't know what will happen throughout the closed beta. There might be some changes there with matchmaking where you may be able to see what map. I don't know how that's going to work, but at the moment, you just will have to be a little bit mindful of which agents you are choosing.
Yeah, I will make a broad proclamation and say that, history has determined that competitive players will typically know what maps they're going to be playing, which is where that mind game would come into. But even then, though, I don't think that they necessarily designed it so that every agent is stronger on or weaker on a map, right? I think it's really just playing into one is just better here. Or in this particular position here, but no one is going to be left out to dry, right? Breach, for example, that seismic shock that goes through different buildings, that thing is useful no matter what, because it goes through objects and you don't have to expose yourself. Same thing for Sova. Information's always going to be critical to have. Just what kind of information you're able to get and the range of information you can get, that's going to be the difference between what it is you're able to do on a map like Bind versus what you're able to do on a map like Haven.
And we saw some really good holding of the site from Poirel there. When Omen's Shadow Ball kind of came towards him, he did have a little thought and was like, well, is there going to be an Omen inside this Shadow? And so he had a little peek, and lo and behold, he did find an Omen just sat there, very vulnerable. As Phoenix runs in and tries to flash, but Moman says, no man, and Noizeeh will be taken down. And that's the important thing. I think when you hear footsteps and you know someone's going to be rushing you, you need to be thinking, all right, what character, what agent could this be? Are they going to be flashing me? Do I have to be prepared to look away? Do I need to be trying to position myself so I'm not going to be seen by a certain line of sight ability?
Yeah.
All these various different things you need to keep in the back of your mind.
Again, the sound is amazing in this game. There's so many times as I was playing, I couldn't believe how accurate it was. just listening to where someone was going to be coming around the corner, what kind of surface that they were walking on. For example, on this map here, the building that's behind Azox, that is all metal. So if you hear someone clanging and banging with some metal and it's behind you, or if you're around sight, chances are that that player is going to be all the way in the back, toward the spawn side. But remember, there's also that metal structure that sits on that site too. So perhaps the player could be inside of the tunnel on the metal site. But the sound is so good that you should be able to determine how close that player is going to be to you, and that can give you the indication as to where you need to point your mouse, click on the head.
And it can bring us back to one of the Twitch chat's questions earlier where they said, why is everyone walking around? Well, that's the reason. When you walk, you're not going to be making as much noise. If you've played Counter-Strike, you will know how frustrating it is when a teammate is just clanking around and making loads of noise and you're trying to sneak up and get onto a site. So you need to make sure that everyone is on the same page on your team. So if you're in a 5-stack, of course, you're going to be in the right situation. You're going to be able to tell the team where to go. But Forsen's getting aggressive onto the site here. But he has taken a chunk of damage, only 31 health remaining, no armor either.
Yeah, he got chunked up there. Spike, will be in the hands of the Cypher. He pops around the corner. Well done there. The site should be clear. He's going to look over at Lantern to see what he finds, but his teammate gets picked off. Poirot is going to find the mark yet again, and that will be the round loss there. As Gotaga had the site with the Guardian. The Guardian we haven't really dived much into as far as a weapon. So it is a single shot weapon. And its accuracy is disgusting. It is very strong from the hip. It's very strong for ADS as well. It's a good gun to use. And if you pride yourself on your accuracy and being able to get that crosshair right on top of the head of an enemy player, maybe the Guardian's going to be for you.
Yeah, 65 damage to the body, 195 damage to the head. So even if you take into consideration the 10% damage loss if you're going to be scoping in, that's still going to be enough to just a one-click headshot. So those of you who are accurate, those of you who are disgusting at games, the Guardian might be for you. It's semi-automatic, it's single fire, but you can rapidly tap away like we've just seen Forsen do.
Yeah, it's a good weapon, and it's cheap too. That, again, cannot just... I can't stress it. Every gun in this game has so much utility. Every gun in this game is valuable. I'm not going to say that, you should go out there and the first gun you use is an LMG. I'm not going to say that. That's not a statement I'll ever say publicly. But I will say that if you're considering going out there and using an LMG, you might be able to get some value out of it because the weapon provides you with the Sova ult popped up right there. So you saw this Sova ult. That was his teammate's Sova ult, but he had the vision and he knew, but he just didn't want to get in anyone's way there. And it also is a little hard to tell, at least with the Sova ult from my experience, whether or not that is going to be your teammates or an opponent's Sova ult. But they did manage to get onto the site here. It's only going to be the Sova and the Phoenix left alive. Lothar goes down, and it's all up to the Phoenix. Let's see what he could do. Does still have his Q available to him.
Totally fucks up, but you can actually kill.
Pops around the corner. He's looking for the target. Finds one all the way into distance. There goes the revive. You can get shot on the revive, but it just threw him off there, and they're able to get the win. And that revive actually was pretty smart because it pulled the attention of the player to the Sage, and it pulled the player to that revive that was coming in and allowed the Brimstone to start to make the push.
Yeah, after you've kind of experienced a few games and you know how long some of these animations take, in that certain situation, you'd say, okay, he's reviving him, but I know that that person who's being revived isn't going to be able to shoot me for a couple more seconds. So I'm actually going to try and focus on the other players and the Sage first, and then I'll move over and try and take down the Phoenix. And also, he was kind of strafing around. He didn't have his feet planted. If you plant your feet, your shot's going to be far more accurate. If you're strafing around, those bullets could go here, there, and everywhere. Usually everywhere, in my personal experience. They just fly over their heads. And then sometimes you're like, why didn't my shot hit? And I'll be like, oh yeah, it's because I was moving. And if you are
crosshair was on the target.
Exactly. If you've come from a background of playing other FPSs where you can kind of run and gun, and you can move and shoot, it can be a little bit frustrating at first. But as soon as you get used to kind of just either crouching when you shoot or stopping when you shoot, and then kind of stop and starting with those strafes, you slowly but surely get used to it, and you'll start to pick up more kills.
I spoke to a few of my friends who compete in battle royales like Apex, for example. And as a matter of fact, GDolphn was one of the guys that I talked to. And I asked him, I was like, hey, do you think that you maybe will compete in this one? He's like, I want to, but it's hard. You know, it's hard. It's a different kind of experience. And I think a guy like GDolphn can easily get used to this and you know, grow as a player. But it is challenging. If you're coming from games like battle royales that, you know, maybe like Warzone, or you've been playing a lot of Apex Legends, you have to play just as you're seeing PMLeek do right there. Come around the corner, slow down as he approaches, go for the shot. You can't just charge against someone and hope that you'll get the shot off. And what we're seeing here is just from PMLeek is insane. What a play from him, and just the composure that he had coming out of spawn was just nasty.
Yeah, a lot of the times if you try and push onto a site and you're not using an ability at all, so you're not using a flash, you're not using any sort of smoke, you're going to find yourself just getting headshot, because people will just be watching one spot with either a sniper rifle or an assault rifle, and they will just one headshot you. If they are good enough, as soon as you walk around that corner, bam, you're done and you're out of the game. So you really need to be utilizing abilities. It's exactly the same as if you've played Counter-Strike, you're trying to get onto a site, you need those smokes, you need those flashes. But I will say, I think smoke and flash abilities in Valorant are a lot more user-friendly, and they don't take as much learning. With Counter-Strike, you have to learn like all of these angles where you have to bounce a smoke off left, right, and center. And even though there will be the possibility of doing that in Valorant as well, at a base level, some of the things you just kind of point, click, and they are there. You can even open, for Brimstone, for example, you just open up the map and you choose where those smokes are going to be. I think that's going to be really helpful for those that are first getting into tactical shooters and maybe aren't as familiar with them. For those who have played things like Counter-Strike and Rainbow Six, I think they'll be more familiar and they will certainly excel to start with.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned the Brimstone, because not only does Brimstone have that smoke ability, we didn't even talk about Brim's other very strong ability, and that is the stim beacon. So the stim beacon, he plants this object on the ground, and it gives him a faster fire rate, I believe it is, not stronger, but a faster fire rate. Now there's a trade-off though, because it also applies to your opponents as well. So your opponents can get inside of that, and they can also take advantage of the stim. So there's a trade-off, but you're going to get another bit of utility that's going to be very helpful for your team. I foresee a lot of new players when they start up Valorant for the first time going to agents like Brimstone and Sage. If they come from a background that's not necessarily CS, where they're used to entry fragging, I could see them going to those agents first, because their kits are fairly simple to understand. There is going to be nuance. You will learn it. You can get that slow orb for Sage into some pretty wacky spots off spawn. I've seen it happen. You can be creative, but at the base level, it should be rather easy for you to take advantage of this. You don't need to open up, you know, and watch a few videos, or open up a strategy guide, or I mean, I'm sorry, I sounded like such a boomer there. Open up a guide in order for you to be able to know where to place these smokes.
Yeah, when we were...
Get your Prima guides out.
During the alpha, and the devs were kind of telling us about like what had happened and how to use certain characters, I'm fairly certain like the sky ceiling, there isn't really one, or if there is, it's very high. So you can fire things so far across the map. So if you can work out a really kind of nerdy
I believe they
angle,
said there was no skybox. I believe they said there was no skybox.
I don't think there is one. So you can come up with some incredibly difficult plays that might be able to really make things tough for your opponents. But it will just take a little bit of research.
Did you see right there when Lothar pushed up with the Sage, and that guy was at that wall there, right where Lothar jumped into? Interesting, you can wallbang right through that. So in another instance, I think as the game evolves, you'll see that player just go for the shot, because your bullets are going to go through that wall, and you will get the kill.
And a lot of it comes down to pre-firing as well. If you know a common spot where someone might be sitting, you can walk around a corner and you can pre-fire that either through the wall, or you just step out and get a peek on them before they've even had any time to react. So again, that comes down to being a bit more unpredictable and not trying to be in the same spot. But there's only so many spots you can stand in. So once you've learned them, you are going to be in a very advantageous position if you know all of the possibilities of where people may be when they're defending, because you're going to need it to get onto a site. It's not easy. even when you're using these abilities, because of the amount of defensive abilities that are also available. And you might be wondering what on earth is all that purple stuff. That's the spike exploding. You've of course got to get away from that spike, otherwise it will do damage to you and could kill you, and you'd lose all your weapons.
And that's not good.
Nope.
You don't want to do that. So if you come from Call of Duty and you're used to playing your sweaty GB S&Ds, word of advice, get away from the bomb. Far away from the bomb. you don't, and you also have that time. I want to continue to hammer on these points because we're going to have a lot of players that are coming from different games into Valorant. And because it's a game that actually welcomes a fair variety of gamers, you will see things that you maybe haven't quite expected to see in the past, like what you saw with the bomb site there. Little things like that you'll have to keep in the back of your mind as you're playing. Don't stand near the bomb site. Don't try and run around all over the place. Do not jump around a corner and try and go for a crazy jump shot. Like, if it happens, cool. Put it in your frag movie, dude. Put it on Twitter, get it on TikTok. I don't know, whatever it is you guys want to do. But chances are, unless the Valorant gods are on your side, that shot is not going to connect.
Entirely surprised that a boomer like you knows what TikTok is, but for sure,
okay,
like,
well, words hurt. Words hurt. I
got
listen, him. Okay, Wave, where have you been this whole time? All right, and then you just come in here
I've
and
just
say,
been
"Got him." I
listening
don't
to
appreciate
y'all's luscious voices.
I don't appreciate any of this, any of this slander. I'll have you know, I am the What Face, the most popular emote on Twitch by a country mile. Billions of people use it a day. Okay.
I've just been typing drop in chat.
Have you?
Just hoping. It hasn't worked yet, but
has it not worked? Hasn't Rocket League taught you anything, Wave?
I'm gonna thank you for the Twitch frame, by the way, after the game, okay? I don't
another one
right now.
10-10 again, a very close game.
Yeah, this is a super close game. It looks like we're probably looking like maybe another sudden death, though. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Well, I did just get word, though. I heard that we are going to go to a break. We will be right back with some more Valorant, so don't go anywhere, folks. Right here.
Twitch Prime is using my stream. Hello, everyone. You can use the Twitch Prime on my channel as well.